We are 4 nights into an attempt to fix a 1,000-mile east-west route across Oregon that we're sharing with all of you. We've been through the heat of the deserts, the rainy Cascades, and the rain-forested coastal range, but snow-covered roads prevented us from mapping the section between Diamond Lake and Roseberg, Oregon. So we are making one last attempt to finish this route and give it to all of you. This route will be available exclusively on Onyx Off-Road, an affordable, easy-to-use, and powerful off-road and off-grid mapping tool. Click on the link in the description to save 20% on your annual subscription. This morning, we were determined to find a way through the Cascades, even though we weren't exactly sure how to do it. But I do my best thinking in the morning after a cup of coffee. So before I fretted over anything, I focused on the task at hand and made sure I gave my brain a little fuel to help it wake up. Then I spent a few minutes thinking about the roads I'd been studying for over a year now and made a plan that I thought was good enough to share with Chris, who was occupied doing something else entirely at the moment. Chris, what are you doing down here, man?
Hey, Will. So had a few suspension noises after the snow incident. Mm-hmm. And so I decided I was going to crawl under it in this beautiful kind of grassy area and put a wrench to a few bolts. And I found a shock and a shock mount that were loose. So.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah. Better
a tight shock mount than a loose shock mount.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, this is a beautiful pose that you've got going on here. Very nice. Yes. Yes, you're a tiger. Yes. Or tigress. The plan is to get back down to paved roads, get into Roseberg, and then get back on dirt. And so Roseberg looks to be okay. I think there's going to be a lot of trail that doesn't have any snow on it. The snow layers updated last night, and it looked much more accurate to what we were seeing on the trail a few days ago. And so my hope is that we can make quite a bit of progress from Roseberg, working our way towards Diamond Lake instead of Diamond Lake to Roseberg, get as much of that trail mapped and locked down as possible. And then just that little snow section we'll have to figure out after this trip. So let's hit the trail.
All right, dude, let's see if we can find a way back to Diamond Lake. As long as there's no snow. Hopefully we can make it all the way through, but at this point, I just don't know. Chris, we're gonna hit some pavement as we drive through these Oregon farmlands.
So we're just on the other side of Roseberg, making our way into the Cascades. And there's kind of two ways you can get in and out of Roseberg and then connect into the route that I have through the Cascade. And both of them involve paved roads. And so you can either kind of jump on the main highway that runs into town, or you can take these backcountry county roads. And I much prefer these backcountry county roads. I mean, it feels like we're driving through a painting. It's just picturesque farm after picturesque farm. Still, there's nobody out here, you know. There's people, there's houses and things, but it's not like it's crowded or there's anybody else really on the road. It's just beautiful. And we're on the backside, like we're just over the ridge from kind of where the main civilization is. And so it still feels like you're in the backcountry even though you're in a county road. Hopefully we'll connect back in the next few miles. We'll connect back into the network of trails that I've found that takes us up into the mountains. But just like every other turn on this trip, we won't know until we get there and find what we find.
All right, back on dirt. This is somewhere in between a rainforest and an Idaho forest. Yeah, it's starting to remind me a little bit of North Idaho. All these downed trees remind me of Idaho.
This part of the trail gives you a slow and steady climb in elevation. Much of it has a mountain on one side and a ledge on the other, but the road is wide and flat, and in our case, had been cleared of trees. It's here, depending on which direction you're traveling, that you either leave or enter timberland, where there's more private property or logging and more traffic on the roads. Today, we were heading away from timberland, and things started feeling remote very quickly. So we're making our way through these mountains. We are squarely in the Cascades now. And right now, this feels a little bit more like an Idaho forest to me. Like still beautiful green pines and firs, and things everywhere. Trees down on the road, that's very Idaho thing. Almost all of the backcountry routes in Idaho have a lot of tree fall. But this road's been cleared, so that's good. There are ferns, but they're not as big and lush and huge as the ones that you find on the coastal range. And so this drive for me just feels a little bit like home. Reminds me of home a lot, and I think both Chris and I are really enjoying it. The road, this road is in fantastic shape. It's, you know, it's a great Forest Service dirt road. It's very smooth. It's, you know, maybe a little washboardy from time to time, but you can really fly on this thing. If you were, you know, if you're aired down, you got a good suspension, you can probably drive this thing pretty fast. So it's nice that there are sections of this trail where you can make really good time and just enjoy the lovely winding backcountry roads that Oregon has to offer.
I wonder if we're gonna get a break in the trees and get some views. Well, we brought the chainsaws, we can create our own views. No need, here we are. There they are, the Cascades on full display. I think those are all like 7,000 to 9,000 foot peaks, dude. Yeah, they're so different than the Rockies.
This was the window I was hoping for. Right around Buckhead Mountain, there's a ridge road that gives you panoramic views of the Cascades. It's at this point that you realize just how deep in the mountains you are and just how far you have left to go in order to reach Diamond Lake. But it's also at this point where you just want to slow things down and take it all in.
This reminds me a little bit of going into the Lolo from Montana. Yeah, those snow-capped peaks are just incredible. Well, this is just about as pleasant as it gets. Yeah, you're right. This is like a Sunday drive.
Well, these mountains are spectacular. I mean, you don't get up above the canopy very often to be able to see out. You've got these little windows where you can see the Cascades, and they are just spectacular. I mean, a lot of them are tree covered, but some of them still have huge snow caps. There's, you know, rocky points sticking out as well. And, you know, if you get a ridge or you get an opening, just take your time and soak it in, because it's as good as anything I've ever seen. They are just phenomenal.
This is a pretty fantastic route. Yeah, it's hard to believe that just a couple of days ago we were driving through like a wasteland of desert.
Not every mile of a route needs to be filled with sweeping views or technical obstacles to keep you entertained. Sometimes it's nice to just cruise along through the forest, knowing that you are deep in the woods where few people venture to roam.
Chris, we're not actually too many miles away from Portland, but right now it feels like we're in a different world.
This part of the route gradually loses elevation, winding lower and lower with tall trees standing at attention along the way. It's sections like these that always give space for my mind to wander, to imagine what life is like inside the forest, far away from these roads, where most of the world is filled with silence. But before too long, my mind jumped back to the task at hand, which was going well.
Honestly, Chris, I don't think we're that far away from Diamond Lake right now.
Whew, we are making good time, great roads, and we're gonna press through to Diamond Lake. And what I'd like to do is take the roads that go over the mountains to get to Diamond Lake. But as we found out a couple days ago, they're still socked in with snow, and they might be until July or August this year. And so what I want to do is make sure that I've driven every single inch of this route before I release it to all of you. And so we're going to take this route that I know is going to stay lower elevation, that I know there's not going to be any snow, and we're going to connect that dot. And then we'll come back another time for those mountain roads, which I am very confident are just fine when they're not snowed in, because they're named routes, they're named roads that other people have actually already put on Onyx. And so I'm like very confident that they're just fine, but I don't want to release a route that I haven't driven every inch of. And so we'll just add to that route later. For now, we're gonna speed ahead and wind up at Diamond Lake and call this baby done. Let's go.
Chris, I'm having second thoughts. I'm not sure I want to go all the way to Diamond Lake tonight. Hey, just keep our eyes open for a nice camp spot. Yeah, I kind of want just one more night in the woods with you, man.
Just 2 days earlier, we were stuck in the snow, only about 6 miles from where we were right now. Didn't seem possible that this was waiting for us just a few miles away when we were trying to keep from sliding off the road. But here we were, our last night on the last unmapped section of trail on a massive project that's taken me over a year to put together and has taken my friends and family coming with me to figure out. Our campsite was at the end of a spur road and flanked by trees on all sides. But just above the trees, the Cascades were standing guard. Down below, we were feeling spoiled having the right conditions and enough time left in the day to really enjoy setting up camp. And I was playing with this awning for the first time.
Very big awning. I've got it set the wrong way, so it's not really giving me any shade, but it is giving us head cover. Yeah, it really makes the camp feel homey with these things. And this one has this extra hinge on it, and it has built-in LEDs, two different colors and switches and stuff. I think Taruka is like one of the few awning companies that's really innovating and pushing things forward. So I'm happy to try this out. I don't have any opinion on it yet, except for I like Taruka and what they're doing and the designs they're coming up with. So we'll use this on the truck for a while and I'll give you my opinion later.
After days of rushing around trying to spend as little time at camp as possible, it felt very luxurious to just take it slow. It reminded me why we're making this route in the first place. The act of setting up camp in the woods is simple, but can be a powerful therapy for understanding what things in life truly matter. Chris was hell-bent on using his chainsaw one last time, and we needed wood for a fire, so he found the driest deadfall he could and started chopping up logs. And while I was making kindling, we started hearing something else in the woods working on the trees.
So we're just sitting here, and all of a sudden we start hearing this Tommy gun going off in the woods, and it sounds like a very large woodpecker, and it's just reverberating through the woods. See if you can hear it. Sounds like such a big woodpecker. Okay, so it's almost dinner time, and I think what we're gonna do is go a little old-fashioned tonight. We're gonna go find sticks. We're gonna shave them down into, pointers, and we're gonna roast some Basque chorizos, which is a nod to the Basque community in Boise. We love their food. People do, but chorizos are amazing. And just have chorizos cooked over the fire. The mosquitoes have not been great. I would give this like a B- in terms of mosquitoes. It's not so bad that you can't be here, but it's bad enough that it makes you uncomfortable. So we have these thermocells. We have 2 of them that have this like stuff in them that they kind of disperse that makes the mosquitoes not like us as much. So that's helped a lot. And then we put up the awning and got against the truck so to kind of keep that, I don't know, whatever it's dispersing kind of in this area so it's not just being blown away by the wind. So that's helped a bit, but yeah, mosquitoes have not been great. So in any case, bring thermocell with you, and who needs a saucepan when you can find a stick in the woods?
Unfortunately, the wood we found was still a little bit wet, so our fire was struggling a bit. This is where having a battery-powered fan at camp can really help. With a little bit of manufactured wind, we were able to keep our fire hot enough to cook the chorizos. It really is the simple things in life that matter most. When I asked my son what his favorite meal of the trip was, he doesn't hesitate to tell me it was cooking hot dogs on a stick with his dad and Uncle Chris.
Well, cheers to almost being finished, but knowing that it will be finished tomorrow.
And cheers to your hard work.
And your perseverance and patience with me.
While we weren't quite done yet, this night at camp felt like a celebration, one that was a long time coming. And as the fire died down and the cool air of the evening set in, our minds and dreams focused on what would happen once this route was released to all of you.
All right, Chris, 5 miles to finish this route.
Yeah, I just had my coffee. I'm ready to go.
Breaking down camp was fast and easy with our rooftop tents, and in about 15 minutes, we were ready to hit the trail one last time.
Well, dude, we've had weather on this trip, but this morning, I don't think we could ask for a better morning. Yeah, today's just gorgeous. Dude, I'm feeling good that we have found a route through with no snow, even in the early summer, and I can't wait to come back and do that other one too. Yeah, that snow threw in a little bit of a monkey wrench, but you know what? It's going to be a beautiful area. In the meantime, this is perfect.
The morning shadows and cool air felt great with the windows down, and the dew on the road kept the dust from flying as we drove toward Diamond Lake. Both Chris and I had mixed feelings about completing this project and putting it out there for the world to see. But for now, we stayed focused on the trail itself.
Oh, we got a little tree down, but nothing we can't just drive over. I was hoping to dust off the chainsaw. Dude, I'm just thinking that this is going to make some families' summer. Like, a family's going to hop on this route, and they are just, it's going to be life-changing. Oh my God, what a way to end this. Yeah, we're headed straight for that mountain. Chris, that's Mount Thiessen. We haven't been able to see it until now. Yeah, that is something else. It just sticks up above everything else.
After all the setbacks, all the reroutes, the uncertainty and the second guessing, ending this project looking at these mountains brought it all home for me. People need to see this.
Dude, on the other side is Mount Baker. We can see that clear as day as well. Yeah, these views are just amazing.
Not everyone out there thinks I should be making new routes. They're afraid these places will become overrun, trashed, and ultimately closed. And that is a risk. But being part of helping folks get out on their own or with their families feels like the right thing to do. So I have to trust that those who will venture out on this route will take care of it, so those who come after them will have the same chance as we did to experience Oregon at its best.
Well, Chris, I think it's time to call this puppy done. I don't know how I feel about that. Here's what I know, dude. Making this route has been a total blast with you. And my hope is that once we put it out there, other people will have just as good a time as we've had.
This route is for you. Watch these videos, download the maps and waypoints, and start planning how you might do a section of it or the whole thing. It's not perfect, no route is, but if it's the push you need to go have an adventure in Oregon, then in my mind, it's a success. So from my family to yours, cheers to getting out on the roads less traveled, seeing something you've never seen before, and embracing the backcountry.